Hi, my name is Kamilah Taylor, and I'm a nerd. Wouldn't be giving this talk if I weren't. I'd even like to specify I'm a black girl nerd. Yeah, some of you are too. I was born on the tiny island of Jamaica. There's a fun fact, there is actually really only 3 million of us on the island, which is something that no one who's really been to New York City actually believes when I tell them. And I grew up moving back and forth between Jamaica and the US, which means that nobody actually really understands where I'm from. And it probably hasn't helped that I really hate running, and I'm actually really slow at running. And so I just I don't fit into any of the stereotypes. Growing up, I was a definition of super awkward. You may not believe it, but I'm at least 14 in this picture. In fact, I think this is actually maybe the first selfie that I ever took, or one of the first selfies that I ever took. And to drum up this nerd factor, I actually took it using that webcam that's attached to one of my first robots, a Lego Mindstorms robot. And I really owe a lot to the Lego Mindstorms platform. That's one of the things that really got me interested in programming and really hooked on programming. And actually got me a couple of jobs along the way. So it got me my first job in Jamaica in an after-school camp, and then also in a summer camp. I used it for my master's research for demonstrating. I was doing this thing with robots, navigating using signals, and I used the Mindstorms platform for that. And then when I dropped out of the PhD program, it actually got me my first job. It was there on my desk my first day at Wolfram Research. And so I have a lot of fond memories tied to the Lego Mindstorms. And so, fast forward some years, I spent several years working at LinkedIn building mobile apps. And these days I've been working on a bunch of different projects, usually too many, because that's just how I roll. And one of them that's truly near and dear to my heart is actually working on an app that aims to reduce toxicity in online conversations. And so I'm not going to be talking that much about online conversations, but if you know me, you know that I can relate anything back to Harry Potter. And so I thought I would include this throwback slide to online conversations back in the day. Internet forums. So yes, this is a Harry Potter fan forum that I frequented back in the day. And this is probably one of my earliest memories of being part of an online community. And given that I was a child that had such an overactive imagination that my pens all had names and relationships with each other, that it shouldn't really surprise you that I actually I kind of lived in my fictional worlds. So yeah, it started with Harry Potter, and I think I like to think of Harry Potter as my gateway drug to fandoms, right? And it was because we had this break, this 3-year break between books 4 and 5, and so that's how I started getting into the internet fan forums, right? And the fanfics, and just spirals out from there. And so after the book was done, I started getting into the harder stuff like Star Trek and Doctor Who and Marvel. Yeah. And I really, I think I learned a lot from my misfit friends, because that's really the sort of the connection with all of these people, Hermione and Spock, the Doctor, Anne with an E. And I learned about resilience. I learned about thinking outside of the box and being okay with not fitting in. And I'd like to think that I continue to learn from them as an adult, even though, I'm still trying to find my way to Wakanda. I'm really sad that this is not a real picture. And so today, I figured I have a captive audience who will indulge me in talking about some of my faves. And also, Cat is really, really, really hard to say no to. So I'm going to talk about J.K. Rowling's Wizarding World and Black Panther. So, of course, spoiler alert. If you don't know much about either of these, there is a movie theater right below. And there's also, the books. You can order them on Amazon or support your local, favorite local independent bookseller. But again, spoiler alert. So this is one of my favorite Dumbledore-Harry moments. And it comes at this time where Dumbledore knows that his time is near. And he's taught Harry everything that he ever will. And he's now comfortable depending on Harry. So he, you could say that the teacher-student relationship has really shifted at this moment. So my first lesson comes from Albus Dumbledore. He taught me the power of a good teacher. They can elevate even the most mediocre. Because let's be real, Harry's really not that special. The only reason that Harry won was because, besides Hermione and everybody who kept saving him, was also because Dumbledore took that time in the 6th book to really have these one-on-one lessons. And that's where he starts teaching him about the psychology of who Voldemort really is. This is how Harry is able to, he uses this in the next year, and he's able to use this to figure out where the Horcruxes are, and to understand the psyche of Voldemort during that final battle. And so we all know those teachers who really pushed us to go past where we maybe would have gone without them, right? I know I had them, right? I have very often coasted and did the minimum possible. And I had those teachers who saw that and pushed me to do better and be better. And so I think we should all, I needed them. We all needed those teachers. I wouldn't be who I was without them, or where I am without them. Yeah, Shuri, right? I just love how comfortable Shuri is being her true, authentic self while also being brilliant. And that's one of the reasons why I love this little scene in the lab when her brother comes in. And so my second lesson comes from Shuri and her lab. Shuri's lab taught me what is possible when we're all involved in innovation, and we have a truly inclusive culture. And I saw this through 2 lenses. The first was the space itself. It had this beautiful Afro-futuristic design. And it had me thinking how uniform the vision is at designs all of our offices, right? They're beautiful, but they all have the exposed pipe, and they're mid-century modern furniture, right? Yeah, we've all seen these spaces. And I love mid-century modern furniture, right? It's beautiful, but you go to one office and you've maybe seen them all. And so it had me thinking, what would it be like to work and be able to innovate in a space like this? And then of course there's Shuri herself. I wanted to do a little quick recap of some of Shuri's inventions. So she has this remote piloting system that she's invented where she can participate in a mission no matter where it is in the world. There's T'Challa's sneakers and his kinetic energy absorbing suit that also lives in a necklace and also repels kinetic energy. I don't know, it's kind of magic. And then there is the transportation system, which is super efficient and powered on vibranium. And then there's all these medical miracles that she's performing, also using vibranium. And so Shuri's brilliant mind saw all of these uses of vibranium that nobody else had seen before. Imagine if Shuri had been blocked from taking a more advanced math class because her teacher thought that she would not be interested. And that's actually a true story of something that happened to me when I moved to the South in 6th grade. I was just not told that I could have taken this class. There's no way to know how many Shuris that we've lost along the way, but we can actually stop this leak today. Yeah, I had to have this somewhere. Wakanda is a society of really strong women. We had Okoye, the general. We had Nakia, the humanitarian. Let's see, Queen Ramonda, the leader. We have Shuri, the scientist, inventor. And we have the Dora Milaje, the defenders. So my third lesson comes from T'Challa and his treatment of women. T'Challa taught me what equality should really look like. Because T'Challa is frequently outnumbered by all of these strong women. And he gives no awkward monologues, unlike some other Avengers, like Thor, right? 5 minutes on it's not a problem that you're a woman. And so the absence of this, making this a big deal, is actually, I think, one of the strongest qualities that T'Challa actually had. And it's actually showed us that this is normal. It wasn't unexpected. He was just picking the people who were the best for that job. And of course, to get this, we had to be free. We had to be in a society that was free of the patriarchy of Western culture. But I would like to think that we could actually all strive to this in our everyday lives. When T'Challa needed to pick a team for his South Korea mission, he just picked the people who were better for the job. And we can all do this every day. And clearly he was right, given how Traitors W'Kabi ended up being, right? He was obviously right to pick Okoye. Again, sorry, spoilers, but So this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And I got chills, this is when they're going to the ceremony, the waterfall, and T'Challa steps out of the ship, and you look up and you just see all of the his beautiful community, and they're all dancing, and there's all these colors, and just surrounded by this just amazing community of people from all these different tribes. And it was just beautiful. I actually got chills when I saw this in the movie. And so my fourth lesson comes from Wakanda. Wakandans reminded me of the power of community and the importance of gatherings. Here, I'd say we're actually doing pretty well. Yeah. So it had me thinking of Kat's call to action for tech superwomen. And so I'm actually just going to quote her pretty directly. She said that we should all be asking ourselves, is the technology industry an instrument for good, or is it every person for themselves? Is there anything that we can be doing that's bigger that we want to reach for? Can we have this place where we all come together? And we can see several of these communities all over the place, right? We have the Dove Color and the Afrotechs, Tech Superwomen, of course, various women in tech groups, and you see them all over the world. There's one that I've helped to organize, Tech Beach Retreat in Jamaica, right? And you see these there's definitely, there's something to be said about having those gatherings and building those communities all over the world. For Wakandans, I'd like to think that they're stronger and they will thrive throughout time because they have this strong underpinning of community. And it definitely gives T'Challa an edge over the other Avengers, right? And so I saved one of my faves for last, all-time faves. Hermione is brilliant. She is. And we learned this really immediately. But already in the first book, she tells us that she values something else more, which is kind of remarkable insight coming from an 11-year-old. My final lesson is from Hermione. Hermione led the way for me to show how we can apply our brain to causes that matter. In Hermione's 4th year, she learns that her previously idealized wizarding world actually kind of runs on this like secret like labor force, like as essentially like slave labor. These house elves who are magically bound to their masters, they get no wages, they can only leave if they're given clothes. And she's fairly outraged, and so she promptly starts a well-intentioned, though perhaps misguided club dedicated to house elf rights. This is just the beginning of Hermione's quest to working on things that are bigger than herself. She graduates top of her class and, occasionally rebels at Hogwarts when needed, only when needed. She helped to lead the defeat of Lord Voldemort, no big deal. She later got a job at the Department of Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures, where she actually helped to advocate for house elf rights. So she found a more productive way to actually achieve her goals here. And then she later worked in the Department of, what is this now? The Magical Law Enforcement, where she became a progressive voice that, for eradication of pureblood laws. And if we're to accept Cursed Child as canon, then she also apparently becomes Minister of Magic, which is basically the best part of that play. So Hermione's career path here is really and truly inspirational. It reminds me there is another moment in the series, I think in the 5th year, when the trio is discussing career options, and Ron keeps pointing out all of these careers that Hermione can do because she's taking all these hard subjects. And she sort of offhandedly says something like, I'd be more interested in doing something that matters. And so if I were to interpret Hermione's call to action for all of us, I'd say that we should be finding the intersection of technology, science, or magic, and what matters to us. So what does this all mean together? How can we apply these lessons to our everyday lives? So I recently learned about this amazing woman, Rachel Carson, and I learned about her while I was reading this book, Forged in Crisis, also a really amazing book by Nancy Kane. And Rachel is such a superwoman that she actually kind of embodies all of these lessons in one person. So a quick little TLDR of Rachel's life. Rachel grew up really poor, but she was sort of really self-motivated to pursue education. And so she pushed herself to go to high school, I think before she was being homeschooled. And she might have even been one of the first people in her family to go to high school. And then she goes to college, and then she goes to graduate school. She grew up loving reading and writing, but also really curious about nature. So at some point in college, she took a biology class and got really into that and actually switched her focus. She ended up dropping her PhD to support her family financially. And even then, she still pursued a science career working in the government. While she was working, she realized that she could actually combine her science and writing skills. And through a lot of hustle and rejections, she actually forged this amazing science writing skill where she was writing all these articles and magazines that everyone was talking about, and she started writing books. And it was because she she had that capability of storytelling, and she combined that with her love for nature. But perhaps her biggest thing of badassery is her final project. And that was when her final book was Silent Spring. And she exposed the pesticide industry and the negative impacts of it on the environment while actually dying from cancer. She was undergoing radiation treatment. At one point, she goes blind temporarily, and her assistant helps her do edits while reading her the book. It was really, really incredible story. And Rachel is actually often credited with the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency. There was a lot of fallout after the publication of her book. So I wanted to go back to my first slide of all of these badass women from our fandoms. And the thing is that, yes, in these fictional worlds, they had the teachers they needed. They had amazing labs. They had magical minerals. They had actual magic. But we don't need a magical wand or a vibranium to be Superwoman. We are already there. And I struggle to only pick 6 women to put on this slide. There's so many more that I could fill this slide with. And they're all out there already answering this call to action. We're teachers, we're innovators, we're engineers, we're designers, we're entrepreneurs, we're building community, we're brilliant, and yeah, we're magic. I wanted to leave you with one of my favorite Dumbledore quotes. And now, Harry, let us step out into the night and pursue that flighty temptress adventure. Thank you.